Good afternoon. Welcome to the Lane Regional Air Protection Agency Monthly Board of Directors meeting for Thursday, November 9th, 2023. It's 12:15. Heather, can you call the roll, please?
Yes. Chair Cutchin,
Here.
Vice Chair Saxon,
Here.
Director Fleck,
Here.
Director Hensley, Director Keating,
Here.
Director Johnston,
Here.
Director Lovell,
Present.
Director Plummer, Director Pictionary.
Excuse absence.
Okay, ready?
Thank you very much. Any adjustments to the agenda by the directors or ED?
From us.
Okay. Third item is public participation, 3 minutes per speaker. Any comments on an item on today's agenda? Nothing heard. Next would be comments on a topic not included on today's agenda. Quiet. All right. Any comments from board members?
The question, so I understand we have an RFP out. When was that closing? And
It's closing the 22nd of November, so that we'll have time to have it scored and together for you guys for the board meeting.
thank you so much.
I do have a question though. Do you want some board members? Do you guys want to score that too? You guys are all scoring that. I figured you guys were. Did you want LRAPA scoring it too?
Whatever you think.
Or the committee.
Or just the committee scoring? Okay, perfect.
Okay, any other comments from board members? Nothing heard. Consent calendar, we've got approval of the minutes from October 17th and approval of the financial reports for July, August, and September. Do I hear a motion on this?
Move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Mike and seconded by Howard. Any opposed to the consent agenda? All right, motion passes. On to the Citizens Advisory Committee. Jim, you want to kick that off?
That's.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry, we'll bog down in the mud.
So, for last month, our main topic of discussion was ways to improve our interview process for prospective new committee members. And we're gonna take that up again next meeting in a couple of weeks.
Right.
Our bylaws require me to send you an annual report by December 1st. So the plan is I'll send a draft out to committee members before our next meeting. Give them a chance for input and then send that to Heather for distribution.
Right. Anyone have any questions for Jim? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
7 is the Air Metrics Business Plan Update. First is Susanna and Trinidad.
Yeah, so as all of you know, Trinidad has put his notice in, so we tweaked the update for Aerometrics to kind of give you a history and so where we're at financially, and then you guys can go from there. So Trinidad, it's gonna kind of be a team effort. So Trinidad's gonna start the PowerPoint presentation, and you guys do have a copy as well with you, so give the floor to Trinidad.
Thanks, Susanna. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to present some slides for you guys. Kind of
Trinidad, one, yeah.
On the desktop there, Heather, that you have next to the one that I have. So looking on the desktop on your monitor. Yeah,
Oh, great.
right there.
Okay, thank you.
And then you can go into Zoom and share.
Awesome.
You just hit the green right there, yeah. And it's the one on the left. That one.
And then just take it to that.
And then you can go to the slideshow, which is up at the top. And then from beginning. Or no, hit end the slideshow there, Heather.
Sorry.
You're good. Up at the top, click the end there.
There you go.
Oh, I know. Here and then here.
Yep.
There you go.
And then at
Got
the
it.
display settings that you see there at the top, click that and then swap.
Just like a pro. Good job.
You guys have that? You're able to see everything online there?
We got it. It looks good. Thank you.
Good.
Shrink the people down.
All right, Trinidad. Thank you.
Thank you. Travis and Heather, thank you for putting the slides up on the screen and for printing out these slide decks for members. Okay. So today we're going to cover the company history, the product that Airmetrics sells, the market, the financial overview, objectives and strategies, the SWOT analysis, and options going forward. So in the early 1990s, LRAPA supported the development and testing of the first mini-ball prototype. This sparked interest with the DEQ and the US EPA. Encouraged by national interest, LRAPA established the Airmetrics Enterprise Fund to continue manufacturing additional units for testing. Airmetrics consisted of 5 to 6 employees in the early 90s. By 1993, the US EPA established the Saturation Monitor Repository to make saturation samplers available to state, local, and tribal agencies. The repository consisted of 115 samplers and support equipment, which agencies could borrow to conduct special field studies and set up air monitoring networks. By 1994, Airmetrics had its first international customer.
Next slide.
Next slide, please. Thank you. Over the next 7 years, there were improvements made to the sampler, and there were developments that increased its efficiency and just made it an overall better package. By 2002, there was a lag in sales, and the agency adopted a lean manufacturing model for Airmetrics. The model reduced personnel costs and enabled manufacturing flexibility with part-time workers based on orders. The design team and sales manager remained on staff full-time to continue improving the sampler and promoting sales growth. Between 1990 and 2007, there were 12 versions of the mini ball. In January of 2008, Airmetrics launched the mini ball Taz, the streamlined version of the mini ball. I know it's hard to see, well, actually you probably can't see it on the screen, but we have version 2.0 and the latest version of the mini ball in the back here. Feel free to check it out after. What it did was really improve the package. It was a 50% weight reduction of the sampler, and it made it more user-friendly, and customers really appreciated the updates. By 2011, Airmetrics downsized to 1 full-time employee for management and production of the samplers, along with a 0.3 FTE finance support. The manager was in charge of purchasing, production, sales, customer after-sales support, growing the distribution network, and is a point of contact for all customers and vendors of the company. There are in excess of 200 customers, and it's constantly growing. Although for budgetary purposes, there is only a 0.3 FTE as finance support, Airmetrics received additional support from technical staff at LRAPA and the designer of the equipment. So it wasn't really a one-man show. There was additional support blended to the company. Next slide, please.
Which one is it?
Product overview. Again, it'd be helpful to be able to showcase the sampler, but really if you wanted to read these features of the sampler, you can go ahead and do that on your own, but it is really a glorified pump that draws in air over a 47 millimeter filter. The sampler is able to operate on AC or DC power, so lithium ion battery powered if you want to do remote sampling. It's a portable unit, which really emphasizes the use in remote locations. In particulate matter sampling mode, air is drawn in through a filter, and then that filter is analyzed at a lab. to get your data. The workflow design lends itself to sampling in areas with high concentrations of particulate matter without shutting down due to filter loading. This is an attractive feature for international uses. Next slide, please. The mini ball was designed based on the need to gather meaningful data that is representative of the local airshed. The mini ball bridged informational gaps and created the saturation sampler market that is evolving today. You can see the blurb there below. It's kind of a mouthful, so I won't read all of it, but the idea is to saturate an area with multiple units to create a clearer picture of what is going on with the particulate concentrations. Slide, please. International usage. Due to the maintenance size and cost of FRMs, in many areas, it's prohibitively expensive and difficult to obtain representative area for quality data. While not an EPA reference method sampler, the mini-vault has closely approximates EPA's FRM data. For that reason, you have the majority of your users being international because their standards are not quite established like the US. Next slide, please. Customers appreciate the fact that the mini-ball is designed with the cooperative effort of the US EPA. In South Korea, early versions of the mini-ball were used as the standard for PM10 sampling. Now, this is one of my favorite slides because it really gives you an insight to how the sampler is used aside from just PM10 or PM2.5 sampling. The previous slide showed the sampler set up on a playground for collection of fallout from the Chaiten volcano in Chile. Yeah, so you can see they wanted to see what their children were being exposed to every day at school. And that really allowed them to gain insights on, what they were breathing in on a daily basis. You see a sampler loaded up on a bike there. That was a mother that traced her daily commute in the UK with her child to find out what they were being exposed to. They wanted to know, what are we breathing on a daily basis? So she rode her bike around, traced her daily commute, and went into other locations as well to find out what she was breathing in. We have a mine operator setting up a sampler to ensure compliance for mining operations and training their employees. You see the sampler set up on in a field where it's really rural air sampling to investigate the effect of pesticides and farming activity to see what their workers are being exposed to. The sampler has been used after Hurricane Katrina affected areas. They wanted to find out what they were breathing. So really, it's kind of a preventative measure for activities that are conducted on a daily basis. So, right, and then the determining the composition of indoor aerosols at a terracotta museum in China. The Desert Research Institute conducted a short-term study in the summer of 2004. High concentrations of PM and its associated chemicals were measured inside and outside the museum. High concentrations of acidic aerosols will erode the surface of the terracotta warriors. So really, this is a preservation method to really create a mitigation plan for how we can preserve the historical artifacts. Next slide, please. Oops.
It went too far.
It
went crazy. Sorry, apologize.
Sweet. Okay. So Diwali is India's biggest and most important holiday of the year. It is the Hindu festival of lights. And what better way to celebrate the festival of lights than with fireworks displays? Fireworks displays tend to lead to a spike in emissions. We see it every year on the 4th of July. Really what it does is put a lot of pollutants in the air. So with the use of the mini ball in the first emission testing facility in India, they developed an environmentally friendly firecracker that's 30% less emissions, creates 30% less emissions than traditional firecrackers. And the test results were gathered with the Mini-Ball. Utah Lake is the third largest lake west of the Mississippi. And the lake is suffering from harmful algal blooms triggered by the presence of phosphorus. So this is a Preservation of Human Health Act and the health of pets and wildlife. So by setting up the samplers, you can determine the total amounts of phosphorus that are being deposited on the lake. And in 2020, the University of Aveiro in Portugal came up with a method for using the sampler to determine concentrations of microplastics in indoor and outdoor air. So these applications, really what they do is promote the sampler by creating new uses and allowing people to innovate on their own. Next slide, please.
Let's go ahead. He doesn't want to.
Oh, it won't. Oh, there.
There it goes. Whoops.
Oh,
Come on. There we go.
The low-flow sampling market, which has grown since the original Mini-Ball was launched in the early 90s, features once exclusive to FRM samplers are now included in non-FRM samplers. Competitors have gained traction in the market by building on a platform that was created by the original Mini-Ball. Although the majority of the market is international, there's still domestic interest by regulatory agencies in the United States. Just yesterday, I got off the phone with an interested air quality specialist in the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency. They were interested in the Mini-Ball because they've used competitor products and still preferred the Mini-Ball Taz. So there continues to be interest in the US, even though the majority of the market is international, 70 to 80% of it, in fact. International sales are a combination of distributor and direct sales transactions. Airmetrics relies on the expertise of distributors in their appointed territories. As representatives, distributors are charged with promoting the Airmetrics brand, installing equipment, and providing after-sales service and support. The Mini-Ball Taz is positioned in a cluster of products that have similar features and at a lower price point than samplers with higher technology. Airmetrics offers value with a robust product that is flexible and budget-friendly. The size of the market, or the size of the bubbles in the graph there, determine how many of the product features are embodied with the unit. And the sampler, the Mini-Ball Taz sampler, is cost-effective, weatherproof, gravimetric method based. It is portable and it stands out among its competitors by offering value. Next slide, please.
Hand it over to Jenna Lee.
Yeah.
okay, so we really,
yourself.
we really dug into the data for this presentation. We will, maybe we'll click myself.
If not-
Yeah, there we go. Show that you were me.
I think that was you.
Oh, yay, okay, good enough. All right, so revenue by activity. So this breaks it back. We have 4 years on this one of it broken up by miscellaneous service, accessory sales, and sampler sales. We have the unaudited year, and then the annualized of this current year. We took the revenues from the current period, we divided it by the time passed, and then multiplied it by the whole year. So you can see that it has a curve to it. See here. Okay, yeah, I was like, I'll just say next slide.
Okay, I think you're too far away.
I was like, I think I'm too far. Okay, so this is the income statement over 10 years of actuals and 1 year of annualized. As you can see, up until COVID, it was doing really well. Annually, the average was $960,000 in revenue a year. The high points were in 2014, 2015, and 2019. The current expectation is actually basically the average and the median of the last 10 years as well, which is kind of clean. Because the high is 1.2 million and the low was during COVID at $400,000. So if you'll get on okay, so also it's been profitable for 8 out of the past 10 years. From FY14 to FY23. And next slide. So the question I was like, they probably want to know is, would you want this to be LRAPA's investment? So I was like, what is the return on equity or the return on net position since we're in government? If you look, that's the chart of the return. The average ROE before COVID was 14% annually on average. During COVID, it was actually 1%. So it wasn't actually even negative during COVID, which is actually kind of shocking. For the net position increased from FY14 to FY23. As you can see, those two numbers, that's 68%. For comparison, McKinsey says that the average for that same time frame was 32. So the growth is great. I'm like, I don't want to be excessively, if Aerometrics was an actual stock, you would check the beta. So you want to know, like, how does it perform against the S&P? It is a less volatile stock. So if you wanted something to hedge against your more risky investments, say the US economy, it would be a safe bet. And then the last one is the inventory turnover ratio. This isn't necessarily a stock item. I just think it shows how quickly things move and how just in time, essentially, he's running Aerometrics. Next slide. So currently, Aerometrics is sitting on a little bit over $1.1 million in cash. So the gray is cash and the AR, because the AR turnover is incredible. And then the blue is its capital assets, which is, as you can see, not a whole lot. And so with the income and the money, what are the potential uses? Like, did you want to go through this part, Susanna, or I'm going to go ahead?
You're fine.
Okay. We could do an interfund loan.
Excuse me.
So with the interest rates being as they are, if we need to tap that money, it would, if we needed to take out a loan, it would be probably more affordable to do so in-house. It would guarantee revenue for Aerometrics as well, to improve their bottom line over time. And it would, save LRAPA all of that interest. And the other one is offsetting general fund for staffing. I actually think historically, Aerometric has been undercharged for finance work and for HR. But we could definitely increase our charges to it to cover more so that our other funds could go elsewhere. More tax dollars could be used towards air.
Generally, in the past, has the fund been restricted? In other words, we haven't used it for loans and we
have charged them for some staffing, but it's been very minimal.
kind of an admin overhead type.
Yeah. And then
Vehicles.
we've done no interfund loans.
Vehicles?
We paid for vehicles out of it.
Oh, really?
Like mileage or something, or?
No, purchasing, we've purchased.
Was that an equity
at least
transfer
two- At
potentially
least two vehicles.
later?
I
'Cause that
remember.
didn't show up in the
Books?
audit thing.
Did it
Yeah.
show up on our thing?
Yeah, no, well, that's the advantage of being around for a while.
Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, I went through the audits to grab the net positions and the capital assets, and cash numbers, but I didn't do anything about
The
that.
last one I
but-
remember was 25K and it was, think about how long ago a vehicle was 25,000, so.
That really dates you, doesn't
So they use
that
that
one
grant, they use the $25,000 transfer dollars that Aerometric
Oh.
transfers and bought it that way, okay? The
Yeah,
fund has to follow Oregon budget laws, enterprise fund laws and
Okay.
rules. So they must have used the transfer dollars. That would make sense.
It would make
Why
sense.
there's no tracking on the audit.
And so that would mean if you did any loans, it would be a 1 year pay, you have to pay it back the next year, right?
No, you could do
No.
it as many years, 30 years, 60 years. It would depend on the agreement that.
Seems
it
like you
was.
have to pay some interest though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
But
but
you pay
you
it
don't
to-
have
So
to
I'm just
pay
thinking about
the same
municipalities, but
levels. Yeah, it could lower, like, when talking to them. It's like a $3,000 monthly savings if we took out a loan from Aerometrics instead of the bank or from
it's
government
interesting.
bank.
Or they get, we're getting.
I'm sorry for jumping in. I know our SDCs we have to pay back within a year, so maybe certain fund types have to be paid back.
Yeah, STC.
So
I know that if a general fund of the city takes a loan from the water department, then they have 1 year to pay it back.
Yeah,
But this is,
Oh, I
different, I'm
guess,
sure.
so when I was doing audits, I would see loans from like the URA to the city for 30, 60 years.
Yeah,
And they'd be like 1.5%, and I was like, I wish I could get 1.5%, but okay.
Yeah, the utility transfer loan that we did 10 years on, so I mean, we can confirm with Oregon budget law what we can, but I think we can definitely do more
Yeah.
than 1 year.
might be crossing the streams with the municipality.
And that was the last of the finance slides.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there questions before we move forward to the next
yeah, 'cause,
section?
I'm not seeing, we're not seeing a balance sheet. And I know that we have had years where we've purchased more and less equipment, and so I'm a little worried about making sure we're getting a fair position. The other comment is I really don't like the annualized. I mean, that's pure speculation, and for me, I would much rather see hard numbers, just. kind
Well,
as
most
a-
of this is hard numbers, which is why I gave you 10 years, because I was like, the annualized is soft. And we are early in the year, so it could go up, it could go down. It gets more firm as the year goes on, obviously, but right now.
Right,
And I
So
can
that's what
actually
that one
give
is.
you a rough thing for this year, actually, because I did look at that as well.
mhm.
So for inventory right now, hold on, let me make sure I have the right, I'm looking at the general fund. Aerometrics has, let's see here, it's about $80,000 in inventory. That's all.
So in historically, do you have any numbers as far as where we are normally?
I mean, the turnover is so fast, it's like 80 to 130, it looks like normally.
Because you know what I mean, you could offset and not buy anything 1 year and get your profit up, but you just burn through all your inventory. And I'm not suggesting that's what happened.
No, I did the
But you
inventory
get a whole
turnover
picture.
for those years, and
Yeah.
it was 1.2, I think, or 2.1. That's the inventory turnover rate ratio on it.
We didn't move on to.
So, I just want to go back to that, because that's
Yeah.
that is kind of what we were trying to show. That is your revenue and expenditures over those times. Where they are. We can get more detail, but that's what
So
that
we
was.
believe you've broken even in the current fiscal year?
Yes, the audit draft has it basically at nothing last year.
For FY 23, yeah, it's at a 0. That's why they're touching.
Right.
It broke even. And 8 out of the 10, there was a profit. I mean, that's part of why you're sitting on 1.2 million,
Oh,
because that's the profit over all the years. And then the COVID loss didn't hurt us too bad, is what she was saying, and left us kind of in a decent place. And it was 2000, and what year was that, Trinidad, that they had to streamline? It was 08. What year was that on your? I wish this thing would work a little bit better, but if you were. It doesn't work at all. I think the battery must have died. If you go back to his history slide real quick. And Michael has a question, I can see that, just go back. I can't remember what year it was. Keep going. Maybe this was a slow way to do it. I would have been like this far back. But that year that things, this. Go that one back more. Well, here, no, this is when it got lean and they had to start going backwards. And then since here, Trinidad's ran the whole thing basically. And that's why we've only had the one FT and then the administrative finance support. And that's really that consistency and him staying on the pulse is what has got that 1.2 million sitting there in reserves for it. So Michael has.
Michael, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Just trying to understand the annualized number. If I'm looking at the financials on page 12, year to date, I see revenue of 132, expenditures of 153. So the net is negative 21,000 through 3 months. So what's the disconnect? What am I missing? I see negative there, but
So,
these slides
well,
are showing
the expenditures, when you go to full Gatsby, it is actually going to be $76,000 in revenue. And the net position and all of these items are based off of the net position, not the fund balance. And the other thing is that the annualized is based off of the items, and certain items have a higher profit margin.
okay. So there's a disconnect between, and it sounds like it's just a methodology difference between the financials in our packet and the numbers that are shown here.
Yes, there would be a small variance on that, also because this presentation was actually put together this week, so the numbers are a little bit further along than the ones in the finance packet.
Got it. Okay, thank you. And then just a quick question. Are there, and this gets to the balance sheet, is there intellectual property owned? Are there a portfolio of patents or of other IP that's owned by Aerometrics?
There is apparently, but it's not mentioned in the audit, so I'm not sure what the value is. I think generally government accounting, like as an auditor previously, we never dug into intellectual property.
Well, and I believe that our patents.
Gone.
Expired.
Okay.
Yeah,
A dozen years ago.
But like there's still a trademark, correct? Or for the Aerometrics name? No, that's expired too?
it's all expired. The trademark and the patent are expired. Did you hear that, Matt?
Thank you. Thanks for answering that.
Affirmative. But I didn't ask the question, Michael did.
But you answered my question, so thank you.
Would you all like to see a balance sheet regularly, or would you like that in addition to?
No, just for this sort of
To
discussion.
inform this decision, I think it'd be valuable.
Yeah.
For, next couple of weeks or whatever.
I can provide that.
Yeah. Any other questions before we move on to next slide? Or next.
How many years back do you want to see?
Oh, I don't know, whatever the same period would be great if that's not
10
too much
years?
work.
Okay. All right, can you click back one more slide? That.
The FY 14 through 23.
Go back one there, too far, forward. I wish the mouse works that one.
Okay.
So that's 14, okay.
Yeah, FY 14 through 23 is firm, and the other one is just an estimate that
Yeah, we have.
can
Hang
change.
on it, but. Okay. So you want to move forward to the objectives and strategies. There you go. All right, Trinidad, it's all yours.
Okay, so the overall objective of the fund is to increase awareness of the products and services offered through focused marketing efforts, partnerships, and strong customer service. So again, we rely on our distributors internationally to promote the product, go to exhibitions, conferences, and demonstrate the uses of the sampler. And we also rely on word of mouth. Academic case studies that are published are a great way of promoting the sampler and its uses. Our strategy is to offer the most value for specialized products and accessories to the niche market at a competitive price. So we always come in at a lower price than competitors with similar features, similar product features. As you can see, so the worldwide niche market includes environmental equipment distributors, regulatory agencies, mining companies. These are the companies that kind of propel the marketing of the sampler just by and through its use. Slide, please.
Skip one.
Nope, that's it.
That's right.
I think the most important part of the company is the name, the brand recognition. I think that a lot of companies refer to other products, but they end up coming back to our sampler. Airmetrics has always been just a great product, and the offering has proven itself. The price, again, that's how we compete. We offer a high value for the price. Customer retention, our distributors constantly come back to us for more equipment, and we really don't lose many customers to other equipment that is similar to our sampler. Capital, we have a ton of money in the bank that could be used for a number of reasons, and fund loans, product development. The agency affiliation, I think it's a good fit to have a product that really is an indicator tool for what it is that we're breathing. And LRAPA regulates the air quality, so I think it's a great fit. Our service has always been great. As far as one person goes, I mean, I'm spread kind of thin, but I pride myself on the equipment that I sell and the service that I provide. Our new website has really gotten a lot of interest. I think that that's a good thing moving forward, that and our lead generating sites that we promote the sampler on. Weaknesses, we have been selling the same sampler for 15 years. Essentially, it's the same sampler that we developed 32 years ago, but it's just gotten a really streamlined package. It's lighter, it's better, it's easier to use, but essentially you're still getting data the same way. It's kind of like a Walkman and a really, maybe an iPod or something along those lines. You really still can listen to the music, but the way the delivery of it is, it's different. It's not quite as high tech. We have one product. It works. It's awesome. Customers keep coming back for that one product, but it'd be nice to have a diversification of an offering. Production capacity, again, it's a one-man show. So really, if I were to receive an order for 100 units, that would put a strain on the ability to get those samplers out. Lack of staffing, so that's kind of tied with that. Threats, our patent is expired, and because of that, other companies have started to produce samplers that are similar to the Mini Voltez. Again, on the phone yesterday with the gentleman from the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency. He had used competitor products, but he still came back to Airmetrics just because of the ease of use, the portability aspect of it, and the flexibility of the sampler. Competitors, again, we have competitors that are copying the product and integrating the similar features that you would get from higher technology, more expensive samplers. Transportation, really the regulations that are applied to the shipping of lithium-ion batteries, which is what the sampler is powered by. That's kind of a wrinkle in being able to support our customers in certain African countries if they want to buy samplers to support, or batteries to support their samplers. You can't just ship standalone battery shipments to Africa because they're classified as a dangerous good. So there are regulations that kind of really hinder the sale. The global economy, we're always at the mercy of what is going on with the world. So COVID was really, as we can see in the numbers, just took a huge hit on sales. And now the lack of management, I think we're going to need to, well, that's just my opinion, but without having someone at the helm, that's definitely a threat that needs to be reviewed. Opportunities. The research and development of further samplers or even partnership agreements with other instrumentation companies, that's a great opportunity. New distributors, we just received distribution in Bolivia last month, which is a great thing. Partnerships internationally and domestically, and marketing. There could always be more marketing that's conducted for the sample.
Excellent.
The uncertainty of sales. So we're recovering from COVID. FY 22 and 23, or 21 and 22 were really the years that you would see the downturn in sales. And that's kind of an obvious thing. I think it followed the cyclical business patterns that you would see all throughout the world. I don't think there was companies that really thrived unless they were, supporting either PPE equipment or just things of that nature. Those are the companies that probably did well, but everybody kind of suffered through COVID. Airmetrics was built to weather the storm, and it has the reserves to keep going. The uncertainty of the market, there is a need for the mini still, as I explained here in the US, along with internationally, but we're just not sure where those sales are going. The market gap, we're slowly losing our edge to competitors because of innovation. The costs of producing the sampler are increasing. That's definitely a concern. And break-even point is around 10 units per month. For FY24, sales are projected to total 125 units, so we'll meet that, and we're projected to probably break even this year. Actually make quite a bit of an increase, especially recovering from COVID. Increasing staff, the enterprise requires management and additional staff in key roles to ensure viability. Moving forward, that's something that's going to have to be reviewed. Next slide.
So with all that, we wanted to give you a pretty good history of what Aerometrics has done from beginning to now, to give you a good understanding of the product, how the market's changed, and those kind of things. With Trinidad leaving, and since this has been completely his job, and he's been solely running it all these years, it was important that we went through this so that we can look at, the board can look at options for what they would like to do, because it is in a place now that hearing from the boards what their vision and what they would think that would need to be going forward is going to be important. We do have in your packet the options that we put down on there for you guys to think about, but we all as a team felt it was important that you guys direct us and what you would like to see Aerometrics do from here forward. And you have a question before I go ahead?
So I don't recall Trinidad, the news that Trinidad was leaving, but when is your projected end date, if you will, with Aerometrics?
We discussed January 5th, I believe, so I'm intending to stay on to manage the daily activities and kind of hand it over to Lance. He's gonna help as I exit, so I just continue to run it until then.
Okay. And then I guess you haven't, besides Lance, you haven't done much in the way of thinking about continuity, I guess, or.
So at this point, we have some applications from Express for temps to help keep the manufacturing going and kind of do as is while we hear from direction from the board. If they would like to keep it open, we do think it needs a full reassessment of how operations should run. And we have ideas. It just depends on what you wanted to do next. So because Trinidad is going to do kind of a part-time slide out to give us opportunity to put the stuff together. So attempt to help with it. Derek's going to help with building assemblies as well, while we kind of wait on the next plan.
Yeah, so my intent when Susanna asked about this was to give the board of directors a deep dive and a close look at the Aerometrics program for a decision that would be made next month.
Okay.
About a way forward. So they give us time to ask questions, get information, and take a closer look at it. So that's the idea here, and see how we want to use those staff options and figure out which one or do we want to have a whole new option. But yeah.
Well, I guess as a follow-up, I guess since we're not making a decision today, but I guess it'd be helpful to me to have a little bit more detail about what the options are. You know, like if LRAPA wanted to continue to have Aerometrics as part of the organization, what would that mean as far as, you know, staffing levels and the cost of that? And given that labor and materials and everything else is going up, you know, does that change the equation as far as how many units Aerometrics has to sell to be profitable? And then I guess I'd like to know if you know, if look like it might be difficult for LRAPA to continue with Aerometrics. I'd be interested to know just what the market is out there of someone acquiring Aerometrics. You know, it was the idea was to sell to the private sector. So I guess what I'm asking for is just you know, a little bit more information so that I can understand a little bit more what the options are financially, and say, you know, if Airmetrics, the decision was to sell Airmetrics to, the private sector. Those funds, would those come to LRAPA, or would they go to the county like
No,
our
no.
fines go?
So if you choose to close Airmetrics and just close it, then all the funds go to the general fund because you're closing the fund.
Mhm.
If you still close it and sell it, and we do have somebody interested who would buy it, then whatever the profits are from the sale, again, all goes to the general fund. So that we did check into that. I also checked in legally to make sure now that, because originally when this was opened, we were using this product ourselves, right? But then because the US has changed in requirements, we no longer use it ourselves. And now it's almost completely international. So I did check with legalese to make sure there was no issues for a government agency to be doing manufacturing and sales. And we're okay. This is a very low technical equipment, so there's no issue for if we were to keep it open and have international funds come to us because of that. So we're safe to keep it open if we want to. So it's really pros and cons for both on which way you guys want to go with it. Does Airmetrics meet your mission? Does it meet what we're focused on? Does it, it is, a good fund, as Jenna Lee put it, that for reserves as we need, like the building project, using $500,000 or $600,000 of that 1.2 and doing a smaller loan, keeping some of the interest inside of ourselves is definitely beneficial for those kind of things. Historically, there's definitely been some issues with Airmetrics kind of being left out over here. I've worked pretty hard since I've been here to bring this in and is a solid part of the team, and moved him to the management table because he really is. So if we're going to keep it open, we really need to address that issue and make sure Airmetrics doesn't feel like some little outlier over here that's just hanging out there, but it's actually part of our team. So those are the kind of things to look at as going forward. This is part of why a work session was an option. If you guys wanted to dig deeper into that, we could totally have that. That's not a bad idea. If that helps you too, with kind of, as we're looking at it ourselves, weighing the pros and cons.
Well, it'd be good to know what the finance, how much Airmetrics would get as far as if we sold it. And I'd be interested to know what staff thinks too about, how they feel as to whether Airmetrics is really key to the operation here or so I mean, I don't need to know now, but
Okay.
at some point.
I'm saying we've all been talking, the management team's been talking about this a lot, but
Yeah.
we can add that. I mean, we can totally add that.
Well, just whatever information you can generate that
Okay.
would help us, I think, make a decision, because right now I don't know how I would, how I would decide.
And I would encourage all the directors, if you come up with a specific question you really want to see, send it to Susanna and Trinidad and then they can share all the questions that he's gotten with all the directors and.
So. Oh, go ahead.
Michael had his hand.
Okay, go ahead, Michael.
Michael, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple questions that I would add that I would like to understand better is how we're doing the manufacturing for this now, if that's in-house or outsourced. And then I believe I've gathered that there's like a separate facility that Airmetrics is operating out of, not at the main LRAPA office. But I'm just trying to fill in my own blanks here and kind of wrap my head around current situation.
Yes, Trinidad does everything. He is a one-man shop. He builds all of them. He sells them, ships them, orders, deals with customers, weird hours sometimes because of the international timeline. And his manufacturing site is over there just right up against, almost in the corner of Olympic and 28, right there at the corner of where Walmart is.
We're renting that space, is that right?
Correct. And we did assess the building to bring Airmetrics over here, but the amount of space that Airmetrics needs, there isn't room to add him to this building, unfortunately, because we really wanted to.
Yep, got it. Thank you, Susanna.
You're welcome.
Howard, you bring up some good points about the increasing costs, and if we were to increase staffing for the company, that would certainly, increase overall costs. But I think the increasing staff would also increase the income. I think that there'd be a lot more energy, hard to create synergy with one person. For marketing and for follow up with customers and for building the distribution network. But being able to spread that around between different staff, I think that would really kind of ensure growth. You see the numbers, that's one person. So if you multiply that by, a couple of people, that's even just one person, that's going to change the revenues, I believe.
If we kick this can down the road and discuss it another month, how much time, once Trinidad leaves, can this company limp along while we decide what we want to do with it?
I think it can sustain for a number of months. It will include probably adding in a temp from Express. That's why we have applications in the queue ready to review and do interviews so that the sales we do have on the table keep going. And then Lance, you'd be the manager. How many months do you feel comfortable holding all the weight? Because we can get the workers, that's.
Well, I guess the other concern is what quality, obviously Trinidad's got a certain reputation within the international marketplace. What quality of manufacturing could we still maintain with a temp who, hasn't any skin in the game, like Trinidad's got 18 years of skin in the game?
Correct.
Would our quality drop to a level where it would concern the international market?
I don't think that would be an issue to. Airmetrics is where I started 30 years ago as a work study student. And then in 2002, when we just about shut down Airmetrics, I kind of ran it for a couple of years until we got a huge order and things went back on the path to success, I guess. And so I think it's doable. If you're asking, and everybody here knows this, I think it's a heavy lift. And I'm kind of the a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush kind of approach, where maybe this time for Airmetrics to find a path to close. So
Well, I'm thinking if it's not investing itself in higher technology and we're still operating on 30-year-old technology, that fuse is only going to go so long.
yeah, I think
It's
Trinidad's right, and Trinidad, this isn't a reflection on Trinidad. He's done an awesome job
Yeah.
and kept, you can see the profits we have in the bank, and he's done that all by himself. But it is, would require some investment. Some of those funds that we see sitting there would need to be invested in seeing what our options are. As Trinidad mentions, there's many manufacturers of this similar samplers now. It's not as unique as it used to be, but
So my question is, we have to maintain those warranties. Can we manage that with some temporary help until those expire?
yeah,
For the 1
we
year.
can either do that ourselves, like we talked about with temporary, or if one of the options is to close. Jerry Boyne, who used to work here, actually manufactures a similar sampler now. When he left, he's the original inventor and held the patent for years. And when he left, he was set up to do this anyway. And so there's been some initial discussions with him, and they're willing to take some of that on. I don't know that they're willing to pay a lot of money for Airmetrics, but to take on the warranty sales and stuff, it benefits them because they provide some of the parts for the sampler. So that is an option to have them do the warranty, or we continue like Trinidad has suggested and see where we can go, or maybe we have a temp for a year that kind of runs things down and helps slow ramp down. But there's a lot of options to consider, as we heard.
So in the short run, I would not like to see it go past February if possible, because knowing it is kind of a heavy lift and having a temp and trying to protecting, like you were said, that we're still having the person doing the work that's got the passion. I don't know, Trinidad has a very special passion, but that would be important for a decision, and then we'd have a plan to close it or a plan, and then still we have a backup plan for the warranties as well. Other questions?
Yeah, Trinidad, what's the unit cost approximately?
We sell it for $4,850, but it's around $2,400 for the unit itself.
Okay. And as far as, let's say the option was to continue on producing it, would you also invest in R&D that would update it?
I think the quickest route to expanding our offering would be to license another equipment manufacturer sampler that's already existing and maybe has gained traction in the market. As I said, our name brand is the biggest,
Right.
That's the biggest
Seller, yeah.
selling point. So if we were to put our name on another sampler, I don't think it'd take long to gain traction in the market, especially if there's already a sampler that's looks similar.
And in your mind, would you see that as just buying it from a source and not producing them anymore and it just put our name on it?
That is an option. I
Yeah.
explored that option as far as having somebody else manufacture it, ready to go, just put our name on it and ship it. Or if it's more profitable to have somebody in-house doing that, or a team of staff members
Right.
doing that.
Just have to do the analysis and see which is.
Right.
Yeah. Any other directors have questions?
So just the only question is, so January is when we're gonna come back to this, I assume?
We can-
Or do you want some direction?
Yeah, we need some direction. So do you want a work session in December? I mean, we're having 3 items on the agenda. We're protecting that, so it's short and tight. I'm sure that, his last day is January 5th, so we can add a work session in January and then roll it into it's up to you guys what you want to do.
14th, is that formal meeting in December?
Your folder, right in December,
Yeah.
sorry. Yes, we're doing a regular board
Okay.
meeting time to choose the RFP. We've got some really awesome options for the building project, so because we need to make a decision. Because they're at this point, we're at a place that they're ready to go to bid. And then just to finish off the approval of the employee handbook stuff.
Well, I guess I'll give you my 2 cents at this point. I'd kind of like to see the balance sheet numbers, but it sounds like we are gaining speed. We've got a lot of reserves. I'm not sure that the value is to continue, but that is an option, certainly. I'm not like, oh my God, this is just nosediving and we need to be done. But with the loss of Trinidad, are we now losing that expertise and talent that really has made this successful for so long? And I think that's a huge challenge for us, which, kind of leads me into one of the options of, selling or ending the program. So that's kind of where I'm at this point. I'm not set in stone if there's a plan. But I'm kind of a tough guy fiscally, as you know, so, it needs to make sense to the agency.
I agree.
Who's the current interested party that's maybe willing to take that on?
It's ARE Instruments.
That's it, yeah, the company.
Oh,
Yeah, it is a really pros and cons things, and this is really why we're bringing it to you, because without Trinidad, it will be definitely difficult. Definitely. So I have one more thing to say before you guys vote on what you want to do next, because we need to honor Trinidad.
yeah.
Wow.
You know, this-
That's what I've gathered in my short time. He loves being the center of attention.
No, I can't read it out loud because I'm gonna start crying. I do, but would you like to read that, please?
What, you think I'm an emotionally stable person here as well?
But I do want to give it to Trinidad to read.
Yeah, the Lane Regional Air Protection Agency wants to present Trinidad Cardenas, did I say that right? Cardenas, thank you, for his sales and business manager of Airmetrics for 18, can you say that? 18 dedicated years of innovating in air quality and aiding in the LRAPA mission to protect and improve air quality. That is a huge statement from June of 2005 to November of 2023. That dash that people say is what really matters. And that dash is what you've done, sir. So we appreciate you and thank you for 18 years of dash work. So thank you very much.
Trinidad, I commend you for the dedication to the organization and to the product, and I know it's been all you for a long time, so. And as people have said, that 1 million in the bank is what you should be proud of, is the money you brought in for the organization and the hard work you put in, but it's not taken lightly, believe me.
I'm speechless, guys. This is awesome. I don't feel that I did a good enough job really presenting the state of Airmetrics and where it's been and where it's at now. But I appreciate the recognition, and this is really tremendous. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know it's tough. It's your baby, and here we are talking about your baby, so. So in any case, yeah. Any directors online have any questions of Trinidad or staff?
Just deep gratitude, joining the chorus of colleagues saying thank you, Trinidad.
Yeah. So what I would sort of propose is if, and I don't know if there's enough time on the 14th that we could have a hybrid work / session, regular session. So we don't, I know it's the holiday month and all that kind of stuff.
We can accommodate that, no problem.
I mean, it's in the schedule. It's.
Yeah, we just want to start like a half an hour sooner to have a shorter one,
Well,
an hour sooner.
I was
mean,
gonna
it's
ask you
up
how much time do you think you have used already of the session? With the current agenda that you have planned.
It's full.
to you. What?
Well,
You mean for the, he's talking
For
about
December.
December's meeting?
Yeah, how much of December's hour and a half that our board meetings are is already eaten up by
Um,
item.
I would say probably a good solid hour because the employee handbook is just gonna be very quick because the legalese piece doesn't actually need your approval. It's just the administrative side, so it shouldn't be too complicated. And then whatever you're, I don't know, half an hour for you guys to choose your
Yeah.
your RFP and then so maybe 20 minutes for that. I would give a good half an hour for the building project because generally, we'll be making that presentation of all the different options that we've had, because we think the building project will really help morale forward as well. So I would say a solid hour for sure at the tiniest.
And one of those options is pretty dependent on what you guys decide with Airmetrics, so.
yeah.
So, yeah, so even if you did like a half an hour or a whole hour before, we could still get out of there. I don't know how much time you think it is. I want to be clear on everything that we need to have to you, and we can get all that information out early too. So you have time to review it. So like,
I just like the directors to engage pretty quickly with the questions, just so we get all those laid out and everyone gets a chance to digest it. And that way we can move pretty quickly, I think, when we get here. So for the directors, any issues with on a half hour early or half hour late
Either is fine for
or
me.
after? Yeah.
I'm game. Let's do it. Come on.
All right, well,
You're
let's,
probably the busiest guy amongst us, so
Yeah.
you let us know.
let's try a half hour early. So that would make it at a 11:45.
okay. All right, we'll do 11:45 work session aeromedics. I have the list. I will send another email to confirm the list.
Yeah.
And then our goal is to get you all that data on 11/27. So you've got a few weeks to digest.
Yep.
Does that seem reasonable? Okay.
And I don't know that did we get this electronically?
Yes, I can do that too.
All right, well, we'll get moving here.
Thank you, guys.
8 is the Oak Ridge Air project status report. Do we need to promote Grace to,
Yeah, I think Grace should be in there at this
Yeah,
point.
I'm
She's
promoting her
pretty
now.
prompt.
hi, Grace,
Hey there,
good to see you.
likewise.
Well, we're ready for it.
Awesome, thank you. Thanks for having me aboard and appreciate your time. I know you have a packed agenda, so we'll keep it brief and have included the longer written report in your packet for review, but I'll highlight some of the great updates that we want to share for the quarter. Exciting news that I'm sure you're all aware of is the EJ G2G grant that LRAPA has just secured, and the entire Oak Ridge team is really excited to work on that project as well and expand the current offerings to include more of the wildfire preparedness and smoke safety in the homes. So that is exciting news and a great example of how the program collaboration continues to expand and bring in more funding and opportunity for the community. We are still working with the EPA to extend the Tag 1 grant out by a year, so that will go through November of 2025. They've gotten a heads up and are on board for that. We just need to finalize some of the financial pieces and the narrative update to send to EPA. And the Oak Ridge Air SWS team continued the great work of distributing more air purifiers over this last summer during the Bedrock fire. And now I think the team feels that basically every household in Oak Ridge has at least one air purifier and replacement purifiers as well. So I think that's a really big win for resiliency in the community And there are additional backup purifiers and filters if those are needed. And then Travis and I were in Washington last month for a presentation to the Pacific Northwest Air and Water Waste Management Association and got some really great feedback and kudos from other folks there that are doing similar work. And we're excited to see the collaboration and the public-private nonprofit partnership in Oak Ridge Air. As you can see with home heating upgrades, the numbers are continuing to go up. I think we really have the team dialed in Oak Ridge, and they've been able to continue adding more staff at SWS, the nonprofit partner. So there's a new admin assistant supporting with the auditing and scheduling for the home heating upgrades. And Thaddeus, who's the home heating upgrade coordinator, has taken on some of that auditing work. And so we're able to streamline the process and have more of the work being done by the local community employees, and kind of get rid of some of the redundancies of needing to coordinate between different people. So I think we're still overall, I would say, a little bit behind in terms of how far we are into the program and how many homes are complete, but that number of completed homes has gone up significantly over the last year. And I think we're going to continue to see a much more rapid pace. But that is also part of why we're planning on extending the project out to make sure that we can spend all the money and complete the upgrades. There have been some really great movement as well with the community firewood program. So we have Brock's Woodlot, which is a local business in Oak Ridge that's taken over operation of the community firewood program and has been a really strong partner with applying for additional funding and finding source stock and wanting to expand that business to be more commercially viable and looking into other biomass opportunities. And I'm sure Mayor Hutchin could speak more to that, but I think there's a lot of opportunity around with biomass and forest and kind of pairing together this economic development and improving air quality by reducing what needs to be burned on the landscape with creating more jobs and more different wood products out of the industrial park. And then there have been some great updates around education and outreach with the new electronic message boards. There's one at the fire department that's been used for smoke messaging for the last 6 months or so. And then the Oak Ridge School District has gotten one up as well. And so I think that's a really good additional way of educating the community about red and yellow days and when there is wildfire smoke or resources like air purifiers available to the community. And I'm not going to get into all of the details about community events, but those are all continuing. And I think the program has great support in the community at this point. The Woodshed program has also been going strong with the high school. And currently, I think we have more sheds that are built and available than people on the list who want them. So we're going to be doing a lot more outreach to push that out and let the community know that those wood sheds are available, as well as the chimney sweeps. And then we're continuing to work with the University of Oregon on the research project around understanding smoke. So a survey is currently out to the community to survey folks on their perceptions of smoke and smoke communications and Oak Ridge Air. And we'll have results from that survey probably early next year.
Thanks, Grace. Any directors have questions of Grace and Parametrics team? Grace, did I understand that Brock LLC is gonna take on the yard waste program?
Yes, I believe so. They've done some work on that already. And so I think, yeah, there's opportunity there. They're also going to be taking on some of the deliveries for Woodshed. So I think it's great to see that every time there's an opportunity and work needed, they're really jumping on that opportunity and trying to see how they can make it work.
Okay. Thanks. Any staff have questions for Grace? No. Thanks so much, Grace.
Thank you all very much for your time.
All right, moving on to item 9, which is Title 47 outdoor burning rule public hearing request. And is that you, Travis?
Yes, that's me. So Heather, if you want to try to share the screen again for that making one, and then go ahead and go into the slideshow. And then play from the first slide in the beginning there. And then I think you're gonna have to swap your display up at the top again. So display settings, yeah, and then hit the swap. And then if you hit Control-Alt-Shift-H.
That's like the secret.
I know, that's the, okay, great.
I'm gonna write that. That is cool. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I found that out today.
Congratulations.
I'm gonna be talking about Title 47. LRAPA is proposing a rulemaking for Title 47, which that is our outdoor burning rulemaking here in Lane County. So this started back in March of 2023. So the city administrator, Jeremy Caldwell, and Alon Draggett, who is the fire chief out there, who I think he actually might be joined here in our guest list. Heather, do you see if Lon is on our participant list? He was going to join us today in case there's any questions.
Oh, yes. Would you like me to? promote
Yeah, go ahead and make him a panelist, so that way.
Jeremy's here too.
Jeremy, go ahead and add Jeremy as well in case there's any questions. So they came to LRAPA in March, let me know that they had an ordinance update, which essentially was going to make some changes at Lowell. And then Heather, when you're done with that, if you can just click back on the like slideshow area.
Go back one.
Yeah, well, just click in on the PowerPoint, basically. Yeah, click there. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
That's what I need. So on your, you have a couple attachments that we provided. So attachment A is the revisions to outdoor burnings, the rules, the red line version. Heather, could you just click one more back on there, and then, because I just need to have the mouse.
Oh, here.
Yes.
Okay.
So that way, when I push the button, the mouse is thinking. the
Oh,
PowerPoint.
that's what it's gonna mean. Okay, we're technically slow, sorry.
Attachment B is the crosswalk summary. So that's basically a, here's what the changes are. Attachment C is a notice of proposed rulemaking, which is what we would publish to the public to say, here's what the changes are for Title 47. And then attachment D is the actual ordinance that was adopted by the city council earlier this year on January 3rd. So essentially what this is, or what the city of Lowell is wanting to do, is change their outdoor burning season. So on your screen, you can see our outdoor burning seasons in blue, which is if you are in unincorporated Lane County or in the cities of Coburg, Cottage Grove, Crestwell, Dune City, Junction City, Veneta, and Westford, your outdoor burning season is essentially whenever it's not fire season. So that's that blue bar that's basically all year long. Our rules say the outdoor burning season ends by rule June 15th, and it starts again for the fall season, October 1. So currently, and then also in the city limits of Eugene and Florence, burning is always prohibited. So what Lowell is essentially doing is they're saying, we want to go from this time to this time. So they want to have more flexibility to do that outdoor burning within city limits and join those other cities there. So that's essentially what their ordinance change does. Next slide here. So for LRAPA, we have to go and consider what this potential change would do in regards to the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. So we did a review to see, okay, if we made this change to our rules, would we be violating the next? And the short of it is, we don't think that's the case. So the screen or the graph you see there on the screen, the red line, that is the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. The orange lines, that is our monitoring from Springfield, which is from our nephelometer, which is one of the sort of federally accepted ways to monitor air quality. There's gaps in the data because we just went ahead and took out wildfire data, because wildfire data doesn't quite count when we're looking at the NAAQS to a degree. So this is at Springfield because it's our closest sort of federally acceptable way of monitoring air quality. However, there is a purple air sensor in Lowell, and that's what this blue line is here. So the data that we have from our PM sensor says that, well, it's far below those national standards. So there's not much of an issue potentially of exceeding that. And then in addition to that space, we have our daily outdoor burn advisory, which is essentially we say, okay, today the ventilation is great. Meteorologically, the smoke is going to rise into the air. It's a great day for burning. So because we're paying this daily attention to what the burn advisory should be, and then publishing an advisory, that is a way that we can be more confident that we'll be protective of the NAAQS. We also have our burn letter permitting program, which is if there's someone who wants to do a burn that's a bit more involved, they can come to us, we can have a conversation about what they're doing, we can write them a letter permit so they can conduct that burning on more specified sort of ways. And then another thing is we have rules that basically say if you're not following the outdoor burn advisory or you're burning prohibited materials, we have rules on the books that we have the authority to enforce to make sure that those things are being followed. So all of that together in combination with how big of a space we have and the design value essentially, or how far away we are from that NACS, we don't expect that there is any issue concerning the national ambient air quality standards with this potential rulemaking. So if this rulemaking process was to move forward, here's what that timeline would look like. The first is on our public hearing. Oh, there we go. If we authorize the public hearing, then the public comment period would begin right around December 1st, once we got all of the paperwork in order. Then we'd have that public hearing at the January board meeting. From there, that package gets submitted to the Oregon EQC. So there has to be a public hearing countywide, which we would be doing. There also has to be a public hearing that's sort of a statewide public hearing. That statewide public hearing would be the same hearing we would be doing in January. We basically have a letter that we got from DEQ that gives us permission to do that. And DEQ has said that this rule change is as stringent as their rules. So we're not being less stringent than what the state is. Once that package gets submitted to the EQC, hopefully in April or May, we'd be able to get this onto an EQC meeting, at which point the EQC meeting would vote to adopt the rule changes into the state implementation plan. And the state implementation plan is basically the document that Oregon has that says, here, federal government, here, EPA, here is how we are making sure the state is meeting the national ambient air quality standards. So if those changes were submitted, or if the EQC adopts those changes into the SIP, then it gets moved on to the EPA where they review and then potentially publishing in the Federal Register. And their timeline would probably be sometime in like August, September or beyond, depending on what the EPA does and how quickly they move through it. So that's kind of the short and dirty of the rulemaking that we're going through on Title 47, which is essentially to accommodate this ordinance change that the city of Lowell passed earlier this year.
Thanks, Travis. And before we take questions, I'd like to ask Jeremy or Chief Draggett, do you have anything to add to the discussion here? And welcome here.
She'll bring them up.
Yeah, hold on, sorry. Control alt shift.
Appreciate the opportunity to join you this afternoon. I'll defer to Chief Drott. I believe he can speak to this better than I can.
I don't have anything to add. Just figure if you guys had any questions, I'm happy to answer those for you.
Okay, Chief, thanks so much. For the directors, any questions of Travis or the Lowell team?
We're just going back, right? So they had changed the rules and now they're reverting back to where they were.
Yes, as I understand it, there was a time when they were on the allowing winter time to burn during the winter. And then it was changed for them to have it less or to be more restricted. But I guess, Lon, if you want to talk to some of the issues that was coming up with, people being inside the city limits who were not able to burn versus those who were outside the city limits who were able to burn, and that was creating confusion and problems. If you want to describe that a little bit, I think that could be helpful context.
Sure. So within city limits, we had the ordinance that they had to be cut off at the end of October. And literally there could be two neighbors, literally like exact neighbors. One of them would be in the county and could burn, and the neighbor right next door could not. So that definitely brought up some issues. Plus the ability of, when we look at wildfire mitigation, being able to get rid of this debris. And so with the controlling factor of how we got it laid out, then being able to burn during the wetter season can help us get rid of that material. So in summertime, we don't have it building up. Those were kind of the big things that I looked at. But with this, I also was a lot more restrictive, and I reduced the size of the piles and gave them specific size piles that they have to burn so that we can, one, reduce the amount of smoke going up, but also the potential wildfire starts, as well as distances from homes and fences and things like that, so we can keep the fire hazards down.
Chief, is there any other method that citizens of Lowell have on getting rid of yard waste and wood product, like a yard waste debris program that we have in Oak Ridge, or is there any other option other than burning?
We really don't have a way of getting rid of it here within the city area. It would be having them haul it off to into Springfield or something like that.
At a
Most
cost.
of them, a lot of times won't do that just because of cost and time or not having the ability to haul off the material.
Okay, thanks. Any questions? Other questions, directors?
So
Matt, please.
Yeah, thanks for painting the scenario about, one neighbor wanting to do one thing and the county neighbors being able to do another. How many folks are we talking about on? Is it maybe 100?
How many in the community or?
I mean, I know how
in the-
many are in Lowell, but obviously not every Lowell resident is going to want to burn. I mean, but is it a few hundred at most?
It's probably going to be less than that, really. So I really see the impact on the smoke, on the air quality is going to be pretty minimal because of the restrictions of 25 feet from a structure, 15 feet from a fence. It's going to limit a lot of the people in the city limits of who can actually even burn. But it does give a little bit of the bigger properties that chance to get rid of their debris.
I'm concerned about the air shed. We experience here in Eugene that air stagnation in December or in the winter months. And as I understand it, the air shed from Lowell would flow toward Oak Ridge. Is that inaccurate? Would naturally flow toward Oak Ridge?
I mean,
rather than flow toward Pleasant Hill.
If
yeah.
I can chime in on that, Matt, a little bit. So from a meteorological perspective, in a situation we were having an air stagnation, there wouldn't be a lot of transportation of that smoke because the air is stagnant and non-moving. So in those instances, if you're doing an outdoor burn and it's an air stagnation day, that smoke doesn't really move too far. It just kind of sits in that local area. And that's where neighbors who may be right next to someone who's burning on an air stagnation day are really impacted by it. And that's partly or a big reason, that is the reason why we have our curtailment, where we take a look at that meteorological perspective of, is the air going to lift or is it going to move? If it's going to lift, then it's going to go high up in the atmosphere where the impact on an air shed, be it Oak Ridge or otherwise, I would think would be relatively minimal. And if it's an air day where we are saying you can't burn and people are burning, then we have the enforcement ability to tell them to stop burning.
Got it. Helpful, thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? The staff has provided a recommendation on page 17. And I don't know if one of the directors would like to make a motion regarding that recommendation.
Do you need the exact one, or can I just say, let's hold a public hearing?
You can say you want to go with the staff recommendation.
I want to go with the staff recommendation. I move that we go with the staff recommendation. 'Cause I don't have it in front of me, so I apologize.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion on that motion?
Just to be clear, this is a motion
To
to
hold a public
advance a
hearing.
public hearing. This isn't a decision one way or another. So
Correct.
Correct.
make that clear.
So it's going with Lowell's city ordinance adopting the city council.
Right.
Okay, so what the process will be then, is we would like to engage with the EPA early to get their feedback before we enter the public comment period. So we will be engaging with DEQ here in the next week to get them some materials for their review with a plan going on public notice of December 1. When we have our public notices, we have our standard outreach where we email media contacts about the public notice. And then anybody who signs up to receive public notices through our email listserv, they get a notification through there as well. So in December, that notification is made. The public comment period is basically open until the January board meeting, at which the written comments can be submitted throughout that period. Oral comments can be taken at the board meeting. And then the board will have to make a vote at that point in time. Okay. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, votes unanimous, motion passes. Jeremy and Chief, thank you for joining us on this.
Thank you for your time this afternoon.
All right, moving on to item 10, which is the director's report.
So I tightened it up and made it a little more eye friendly and a little more easy to glance through. I shortened some of the graphs a little bit, but still left the basic information. So I really need your guys' input if you'd like it. And then I took what I know of as the board's goals for us. They're not every single one of them, but they are some that I know that we're currently working with, and kind of gave a brief synopsis. So your input, if this is a little more helpful for you going forward, if there's something else to add. I'd also think that we might need to look at, after the first year, setting a new small work session, so I can have a new list of goals or update the goals we currently have. Some of them have been completed. So just to keep that in mind.
I'm not seeing complaints.
Complaints are on page, I put the order a little bit different too. Complaints are on this, they're right after the graphs.
No, I meant the actual listing of the folks who had pending and future and all of that fun stuff.
The enforcement.
The enforcement.
Oh, the enforcement. So that on the enforcement, what I did is nothing's changed. So I just took off the people's names that are again and again. And then so you'll see on number 1, this one is agreed to the penalty, so they'll be paying the 1,400. And there's no change on the ones that were in the last month's board meeting.
No, which page is that one on?
It's it doesn't have a number,
It's the next one after.
but it's this page right here. For the enforcement. Keep going one more, there it is. So that's all I did, is to make it have I mean, I can keep them all on there, but I just left you with just the changes. So if there's a new one gonna come in, I'd add the new one, and then this is the ones that are still we're acting on, and then the numbers of what we had are still in the graph. So all of the ones that are still pending, that we haven't done any action on it yet, that from last month, they're in the graph here, but I didn't relist them again,
So
because there was no change
we
to
only
them.
had one new one in the last month, is that?
We had no new ones.
Oh, okay.
And the only one of the pendings that's made a decision is the cemetery, the cremation place, excuse me, they're gonna pay the penalty.
Okay. Yeah, sounds fine. Thank you.
I figure it might be easier to you guys, because I know you have a short time for flowing through.
No, that sounds great.
Okay.
Any other suggestions or wants on the director's report?
Just one question. I didn't look at this real carefully, but did you provide a status, or is there a status on where we are on the backlog on permits, and for both just the standard permits and the Title V permits, the progress on those?
From the report from that we had in the last month,
Yeah.
it's about the work back, Max, of course, steps out when you have a question for him.
That's all right.
But all our numbers are down because we have very few backlog at this point.
Okay,
So
that's what I was
we're in a good flow. There's only a couple that are close to expiring or have expired that are in the Title V that we really need to get out. Otherwise we're pretty in a current place.
Okay,
He
Thank
is a guest now. He's not a panelist, but I can make him one unless you.
that's fine.
Okay, okay.
I'm good.
Because international paper, we're hoping will be wrapped up soon, and then a couple more. So there's not that many.
Yeah, well, IP is a big one. So.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I don't think, is that in, I don't think we have that. Well, we have the permits that we're at, how many we've done. So on the next page, when you're just looking at it, it gives you the list of what's completed, right? How many needs are what's completed.
Adding the backlog being this addition.
Yeah. That's a good idea, actually. We can do that. I can add to the graph for what's behind that we haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah, that'd be helpful just to understand
Okay.
how workload versus staff, how that's matching up.
Okay. So I have like a backlog column, and the backlog column will be what is expiring or close to that we haven't been able to touch yet.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I like it. Other than that, you guys is this more reader friendly and?
Yeah.
So be thinking about the goal thing. So then in January, we can ask if you like to set a work session for goals.
Yeah, so looking forward on the last page, we've added, in December, we've added the parametrics work session. January looks pretty busy, Susanna. And that would be also the public hearing, would that be right?
Yes, so.
Oh, there
We
it
have
is.
to move
Yep,
something.
there it is. It's already written in there.
Do I move it to March, maybe?
What's that?
The work session for goals?
That's fine. I mean, it would be, I would be nice to have the goals before we start the budget process, so that's some of the goals. So February would, if you guys would, I mean, I always have you guys think about when you want to do, but honestly, if you would like to have a work session for goals in February.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
You'll have
sure does.
Okay.
two new elected officials there, or two new chair and vice chair.
And I'm assuming
Maybe.
30. No, over there. You're doing a great job.
I can change that.
And are your goal sessions usually an hour long, half an hour long? What would you like?
Boy, it really depends. I mean, our city council spends a day doing that, so.
You guys need to buck up and get it shorter.
Well, we haven't actually done it this year, so, anyway, long story short, I would think an hour minimum, don't you? I mean, I guess I don't know the breadth of what we want to address. You know, so that's something we may want to throw out.
I think we'll primarily work off the existing goals and see what needs to change, aren't we?
Okay, I can send you out the
Yeah.
last board approved agenda for the goals, and then we'll put an hour.
Okay.
We can have a work session at a restaurant. I'm just kidding. We can make a real fun day out of it if you really wanted to. A retreat work session.
A bar would be more.
No. Like the fact that we're having our work session at a bar, but okay, I'll plan for an hour. Is it before the board meeting or after? What is easier for you guys? In February?
Neither.
It's just
Neither,
too soon to
sorry.
make that
I
call.
was gonna say.
You wanna wait?
You can let us know closer.
Yeah, we'll
That's
be
fine.
closer to once the calendars start to fill up.
Yeah, I know, it's hard.
Yeah.
She either for me right now.
Okay. Well, when I send all the goals, if you guys have if you have a vote of which way you want, then you can just let us know, but
Okay.
we'll tentatively put it before at this
I was
point.
gonna say, because we do budget before in. you know,
In March and
subsequent
April, yeah.
months, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. Thank you. Glad you like the changes.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order? Mike and Matt, anything?
One quick question, just to confirm, what's asked of us, of the directors, as far as the parametrics goes. You like, Brian, would you like us to send any requests we have for information or questions? We're sending those to Susanna, we're sending those to you?
Yeah.
Let's send it to Susanna and then she'll compile all the questions that all the directors have and spit it back out to us so we have all those answers.
Yeah, I've got 6 things here on the list so far, but if I could have that by sometime over the weekend, so Monday, I would have all your questions gathered, then I'll send an email on Monday saying this is what everybody wants to know, and then that way we can have all your answers to you by the 27th. That gives us time to put it together. Does that timeline work for everybody?
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds great, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, well.
Susanna, anything before we
Thank you, everyone.
hear a motion?
Whoa, easy, Alex, slow down.
All right. Meeting adjourned at 1:48.
No, just kidding.
It's usually not the